Good evening, everybody. It's Wendy Hernandez with Command the Courtroom. Tonight, I have one of my favorite guests that I've met. I've known Dr. Judy Rabinor for about, I think, 10 years, maybe a little less than 10 years. And we met back when I had another podcast called The Family Law Insider. And anyways, yeah, Judy and I have stayed in touch, and I'm excited to have her here. So Dr. Judy is, I'm going to read the bio here. Sorry, I'm turning away. She's a clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, author, speaker, writing coach, and consultant based in Manhattan's Upper West Side, where it's like 9:30 at night right now. So thanks, Judy, for being here. And so Judy recently had another book published, and it's called The Girl in the Red Boots. Do you want to hold it up, Judy? Making Peace with My Mother. I read this book. It's a phenomenal book. It made me cry at the end. It was very touching to me, and I had to buy a copy for my own mother because I just felt that she and I could benefit from it. So yeah, that's The Girl in the Red Boots. You can find it on Amazon. And the first book of Dr. Judy's that I was introduced to back several years ago was Befriending Your Ex After Divorce, Making Life Better for You, Your Kids, and Yes, Your Ex. So having said that, welcome, Judy. Thank you for being here. I know it's so late for you there.
It's late, Wendy, but for you, I'm always willing to have a good chat session because we love digging into hard topics.
We do. And, you know, for anybody out there listening, Judy and I have been talking about, she's going to be a regular on the show, and we're trying to figure out how to make it work because right now the time difference is it's such a big gap, 3 hours. It's 6:30 in Arizona, and I think 9:30 I'm in bed. So we're going to figure out a way to make it work, but we're going to bring you some valuable information about your kids, your cases. But today we're going to talk about two big mistakes to avoid, and maybe other mistakes to avoid when talking to your kids about divorce. Right, Judy?
Yes, Wendy.
Okay, so Judy, one of the things that comes up a lot in my cases and also during these live streams is people don't know what to say to their children when they're going through a custody battle or through a divorce. Or when the kids start asking questions, people are afraid, oh my gosh, is this considered coaching? Am I going to be, accused of poisoning the well? How honest should I be with them? And I really have a hard time answering these questions because I'm not a mental health professional.
Well, just on that point, Wendy, what we've been talking about is the interface of legal issues and mental health issues. And that's why it's so much fun talking about this with you, because we come at it from kind of a different perspective, but we have the same goals. And so the thing I want to stress is that most parents do ask the question, how honest should I be? And parents want to afford their children comfort, but they also want to be realistic. And actually, divorce is hard for kids. It's really hard for kids. And while on the one hand, parents want to assure their children, I love you, I will always be your parent, it's going to be hard because all of a sudden their lives are topsy-turvy. That instead of living in one house, they're living in two houses, whether they go to one on the weekends or they go to one every other night, which is, some ways that joint custodies gets determined. And so parents, I think, make a big mistake when they try to say everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. What's important is to say, there may be moments where it all feels so uncomfortable because it's new, and everything new is always uncomfortable, but we are going to come out standing on all our feet, because even though divorce ends a marriage, it does not end a family. And your dad and I, or your mom and I, are going to be here for you. That's the most important message. We are going to be here for you. And it might feel uncomfortable. So one big mistake is saying, everything is fine, you're going to be better off. I'm not really sure if children are always better off just because parents decide to get divorced. So that's the second mistake. you're going to be better off because daddy and I will be both happier, and you'll be happier because you'll have happier parents. But a lot of the recent research really challenges that. I mean, children don't really care how happy their parents are. You know, Wendy, I mean, you know, does your son ask you every day, how happy are you, Mom?
No. My daughter, no.
Your daughter, I mean.
Yeah.
How old is she, 10?
10, yeah.
Right. Is she thinking about her mother's happiness?
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, she's worried. She's in the moment. She's worried about whether she's happy. That's my observation.
Right. And so parents really have to face that it's important to give your child assurance and comfort. And it's also important to teach them that even if things feel uncomfortable, we are going to land on our feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Judy, you're coming at this from the perspective of a mental health professional, and somebody who deals with people who are going through divorce and have children, but also from the perspective of somebody who went through some hard times in your own childhood, and you were always told it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So, how did that affect you as a child? Did it?
Yeah, that's one of the messages of this book, The Girl in the Red Boots, Making Peace with My Mother. My mother, I describe her in the book as an uber optimist. And a lot of times when parents get divorced, they feel, actually, a part of them feels optimistic. Thank God I'm getting out of this. But that's not how kids feel. Kids are not happy when parents get divorced. I mean, unless one of their parents was an uber monster. And that is not true of the majority of people. I mean, you can be married to someone and feel like you're a very poor match and you shouldn't stay married, but that doesn't mean that your spouse or your soon-to-be ex-spouse was a monster. So everything's going to be fine really is a way of being misattuned with your child. It's not fine for your child. Your child has lots of scared feelings about who's going to really be there for me, and lots of feelings of shame that my family isn't what I thought my family was, and it's not like the family next door, even if the family next door is unhappy. So too much uber optimism is a way of missing the boat with your child. What's important is to give your child the opportunity to say how they feel. Ask them. I'm sure you might have heard Daddy and I fighting, but you might not have thought we were going to get divorced. Many kids will say to their parents, because divorce is in the air in our culture. Many kids will say to their parents, you and Daddy or you and Mommy are not getting divorced, right? And parents often comfort their children. No, we just had a fight. People who live together, have arguments. Doesn't mean we're getting divorced. But when divorce is a decision, it's important to let kids know they have every right to feel scared, to feel upset, to feel insecure, to feel ashamed, and not to be happy. They're not the ones making this decision. We, the parents, are the ones. And I'm saying this as a parent who made the decision to get divorced. Yeah.
Thank you for that insight. Really great insight, Judy. So what if one of the comments you made earlier was that, you can tell the child, listen, we're still a family. Mommy and Daddy are going to be here for you. But what if you can't say that with certainty? Say, I'm getting a divorce from my husband. I think my husband is a monster. He's a jerk. He's an abuser. These are issues that I see come up a lot. And so what if you cannot speak with confidence to your child and say, Daddy's going to be there, or, it is going to be all right? I mean, what's the best strategy in that situation?
Well, I mean, I guess an important thing is there is no certainty about anything. Two people get divorced, and who can assure anyone what's going to happen 3 months from now, a year from now? That's another reason children are very insecure. They all know many stories. I have a 12-year-old grandson who was so upset all summer because he had a friend whose parents got divorced, and the mother left and went to Italy with her boyfriend. And this child never saw her mother again. And now she was going to Italy on a plane with her brother to see her mother. And my grandson was so upset thinking about how could a mother walk off and leave a child. But parents do walk off and leave their children. And so all one can really say is, I will never leave you.
Got it.
If you know that's true, I will never leave you. And I know your father loves you. And he might be very tied up in this or that right now. If let's say you're married to somebody who, for whatever reason, this guy is now like an alcoholic. Your dad drinks too much. He wasn't always like that. And I know that people can get better. And I know that he loves you, even if right now he's not really paying much attention to you. I mean, so it's kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth to remind the child that this person is not the epitome of evil, that this was somebody that you once loved and you married. And your child wants to feel lovable. Children want to feel secure, protected, and lovable. And since no one knows the future, we do not know what's going to happen. No one can really say, we will always be there for you. But you can say, I give you my word that as long as I'm alive, I will do everything to be the best parent I can be.
Got it. Okay, that helps. So Born Free has a question that I think is a good question. Maybe you can help with. Born Free 83 says, can you identify some key issues that kids will value? I'm guessing as you're talking with them about the divorce or the breakup that's happening.
And the question is, can you identify key issues that you mean what you can say to kids to provide them with security?
Yes.
Well, everything depends on, number one, the age of the child. Like, are we talking about a 5-year-old? Are we talking about a 15-year-old? I mean, these are like two different worlds. But reminding a child of the ways you are strong, they are strong, and they have love in their life. Reminding them of the family, of the grandparents, of their cousins, that we're still having Thanksgiving. I know that when I remember this distinctly when my ex-husband and I told our children we were getting divorced. I remember exactly where we were sitting. It's a moment I will never forget. And my daughter turned to me and she said, are you both coming to my birthday party next year? So you have to think, what developmental level is your child and what will bring them security? Yes, we're both coming to your birthday party. Yes, we're going to be at your graduation. Yes, if you forget something at daddy's house, I'm going to go over. In my case, my ex-husband and I, even though we did not have such an amicable divorce in the beginning, but we still were able to, and this is a concept I want to stress, take the high road. Keep the best interest of your children in the front of your mind. Your children want to know, if I forget my homework at daddy's house, are you going to go pick it up for me? Or are you feeling like you're so angry, like you have also, Wendy, heard stories of people who do not let the ex in each other's houses. That's very difficult for children because children cannot at a very young age be very responsible for all their belongings and bringing things back and forth over the weekends and different days of the week. So letting children know you are going to really be there to pick up the loose ends. I know this is going to be hard for you. And I know even though your father seems a little out to lunch right now, he's a good guy. When I married him, he was captain of the football team. When I married him, we had such a good time in college. So your child can have something to hold on to.
What are the effects of somebody, it comes up a lot where parents badmouth to the children. And so, I mean, for me, there's a little bit of a disconnect. Maybe you can help me sort it out. Like, you can focus at some point, you love this person. There were good qualities about this person, but now maybe they're just whatever, a car wreck. And so how do you balance being honest with the kids against how much honesty is too much, that it's damaging to the children, if that makes sense?
It makes very much sense. So, I mean, a good example is that if you're married to somebody who comes home and had drank too much, You might say to the kids the next morning, shh, be quiet, daddy is sleeping. He and his friends went out. They had too much to drink last night. They had a great week at work and they were celebrating. However, if you're getting divorced from somebody, you might feel like saying, your dad? Yeah, once again, he let me down. The man's an alcoholic. He's a car wreck. Well, those are things not to say. Those are things not to say. They really make children feel very insecure. It doesn't matter if it's true. You don't have to say it. You have to trust that when your child gets older, they're going to find out the truth. And you don't have to be the bearer of bad news. I know that there were times where I said the wrong thing and my kids were mad at me that I said something negative about my ex-husband. Even if it was true, like your dad has a bad temper. Now, another thing is attitude, right? So if you say in a very gentle way to a child, whether you're married or divorced, your dad is a great guy, but he has a bad temper. And when he loses it, he loses it. Keep out of his way. See, if you say that when you're married, you're just helping your child. Right?
Yeah.
So attitude is very hard, and children pick this up quickly. So how to keep in mind that if you are getting divorced, you have the opportunity to have another spouse. But your child never has another mother or another father. They might have step-parents. They might or they might not. You don't know what's next in store for you, and you don't know how that person and your child are going to bond anyway. It's not a simple relationship, the step-parent relationship, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's a great topic for another show.
We'll do that another show. What happens like when your child and your and the step-parent are at odds?
Yeah.
Right.
Happens all the time. Yeah.
It happens all the time. So it's very important for a child to feel, your dad and I could not live together. We couldn't be married, but your dad has a lot of good qualities. And to be able to name some of them, and even if none of them are present at this moment, there must have been some when you married him. He must have been a guy who was the life of the party, had a great sense of humor, was great at basketball, or did something. And a child wants to have a parent they admire. If you take that away, you're depriving your child.
Okay. Thank you for that. So
I guess I have a pretty clear point of view on that one, right?
yeah, you do. It's good. It's good feedback. So another question that I have is, maybe this is, I don't know if this, we kind of talked about this briefly off camera. The other mistake people can make, which is ignoring their child and the things that their child may be going through as people are separating, ending their relationships. And so I have this come up a lot where my clients will say, or the other party will say, Joey is fine. Like, Joey's totally fine. Joey's carrying on. Like, I don't see any effects. Nothing's happening. Joey's resilient. I don't see a need to address any of this with Joey because why upset the apple cart? What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, my viewpoint is to pay careful attention and don't take that at face value. Let's assume that maybe a child is fine some of the time, but children have to have worries. I mean, how could they not have worries if all of a sudden somebody who's been their parent is absent in a particular way from their life? Even when both parents say, we are going to co-parent and dad moved down the street, we live in two houses, you're free to go back and forth, it's different. And so the important thing is, well, I'm so happy that you seem to be doing so well, but what's it like for you? What's it like for you when I'm out at night and dad isn't home? And to help a child set up rituals with both parents. Like if you're at mom's house, do you have the right to call dad? If you're at mom's house, when you call dad, can you go in the room and shut the door? Would you like privacy? And a lot of these questions depend on the age of a child, but it's pretty impossible that divorce doesn't affect everybody. Even a person getting divorced who thinks that they're really gleeful. I'm finally rid of her. I'm finally rid of that spendthrift, or I'm finally rid of that idiot who had the television on all the time. But most people really come to find out that their spouse did certain things that help life run smoothly. They dumped the garbage. They made sure the doors were locked. These might seem like little stupid nothing things, but they're not nothing things.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as one child runs a fever and a parent, it's 2:00 at night and a child is sick and there's another child in the house, a parent realizes how much another body in the house really does make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like for a child who says nothing's wrong, a parent could say, there are times I really miss Dad. I wonder if you do. There are times I really miss Mom. After Mom really made good pancakes, right? My pancakes stink.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that, how that acknowledgement would open up a conversation with the child.
Yeah, like I hate driving in snow, but that snow didn't bother your father at all. There are times I wish your father were here driving the car. That's not saying I want to get remarried. That's not saying I wish we were married. It is just acknowledging that this was a person who added value to the family.
So Judy, this question is less about the child and more about the parent, or, half of the equation that's now gone. So if I, maybe I asked this already, but if I'm going through a divorce and like, I hate my ex's guts, and I can barely bear to speak their name, to utter their name. How do I get past this? What do I need to do?
You need to talk to your friends, not your child. Hopefully you remember your child is not your friend. Your child needs care, comfort, protection, security. And if you're that mad, you can say, we once loved each other and now things are so awful that I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to sour you on your father. But we've just gone through really a lot and I'm very upset about it. So you can acknowledge you're upset. You can acknowledge your discomfort. You can say, I don't want to talk about him. But mainly, I hope you have friends. Like, I wrote a book about my mother. After my father died, she made the bad mistake of sharing some deep confidences with me. And that was a serious mistake. She was very wrapped up in herself, as opposed to thinking about what's best for her daughter. And I wasn't a kid. I was 30, but I still didn't need to know all the ins and outs of a marriage that I had a lot of esteem for.
So what does it mean? Is this called parentification?
Yes, when a parent acts as if the child is their best friend and the child should be giving them advice, they're parentifying the child. They're forgetting that they're the parent and the child needs support. The child needs protection. The child needs to be protected from all this. The child will find out whatever there is going on later on when the child gets older. They'll even find out from that parent. If that parent is unreliable, yes, the child is going to find out. Now, that's another question. How to handle it when your child is all excited because daddy is picking up your child. And what happens? Daddy doesn't show up. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
It happens all the time. How does mom, and I'm using mom in this case, we could obviously reverse the roles. How does mom say, what does mom do? Mom does not talk about dad, but she says to the child, how are you doing? If I were in your shoes, I would feel really disappointed. I know you were counting on spending the day with dad. What can we do that would be fun for you? Often mom is really furious because mom was also counting on the child spending the day with dad, and mom had a whole load of things to do.
Exactly.
And now she's really pissed off and wants to badmouth dad.
Yeah.
And in a way is happy that the child is, wants to say, see, this is why I divorced him. Because you can never count on him. He's an unreliable jerk. He's a loser. But that is harmful for the child.
Yeah.
And the most important thing the mom can do is say, honey, I'm so sorry. I know you really were excited this morning. I saw how excited you were when you were getting ready. Well, I hope Dad'll perform better next weekend because I'm sure I know he loves you, but he gets sidetracked or sometimes work gets the better of him or whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly making an excuse for dad, but it's really putting the child front, not bad mouthing the dad.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. That's such good advice, Judy. And as you were talking, you reminded me of a case I had many, many years ago where um, one of the parties, I think, parentified the child. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
using that term
No,
correctly.
you are, Wendy.
Okay. And so one of the parties really hated the other party and really hated the other party's new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so when, the other party and the new girlfriend would come to pick up the child, the one, party would say, "Oh my God, there they are. And there's that stupid witch and blah, blah, blah." And so there's part of me that thinks, well, it's harmful to the child, but what could it do for the relationship between the child and the parent who is bad mouthing? Could it cause the child to kind of hide or keep secrets from the parent who's parentifying about what's going on at, the other parents in the witch's house? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if the child feels that they have to take sides, that's what you're really talking about. If the mom is very angry because the witch broke up the marriage and that's how she thinks of it and that's how she talks about it. So what if the child actually likes the witch? What if the witch has a very nice child the same age as the child? And when dad and the witch come to pick up the child, they go off, they have a nice day, they go to the movies, they go out for dinner. Yeah, then the child doesn't want to tell the mom. The child feels trapped in the middle. They can't be honest with the mom. They don't want to, they're trapped in the middle. And that's what's very important not to do, not to make the child take sides, to even say, if every once in a while I lose it, forgive me.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Getting divorced is not easy for you. It wasn't easy for me. And sometimes when I see dad with his girlfriend, I really feel like I want to shoot somebody. But you know what? That's just me.
Yeah.
I know that she has a son that you get along great with, and I'm glad for you. Yeah. Because it means that you have a great time when you're there every other weekend or every weekend or whatever the schedule is.
Yeah, it's, I feel like I've never been through a divorce and I hope that I will never go through a divorce, but I've been through thousands of divorces. That's what I say, because like alongside my clients. And, sometimes I get so wrapped up in the passion of these cases too. And I can just feel what my client's feeling. I'm an empath.
Yeah.
So I can see how it would be really hard to put personal feelings aside and just take the high road, like you said.
I know. Well, the worst situations are when one person feels that another person, quote, destroyed the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very difficult to be that, quote, abandoned victim spouse. Like my wife left me for this other man. And now the abandoned husband hates the other man, hates everything about the other man, doesn't want that other man anywhere near his kid. And those are very tough situations. And the best thing people can do is go into some kind of family therapy and really work on this. Mm-hmm. Because the children do get trapped in the middle, and often the children just decide they're going to dump one or two of the parents. And, there's this tremendous movement of estrangement, family estrangement. Mm-hmm. And some of it is rooted in bad divorces where children really felt pulled between parents who couldn't really put the child first. Mm-hmm. So, I guess everybody has to really think, what would I want if I was a child and my parents were getting divorced? The child would want to feel like I can have both of my parents. Mm-hmm. They both can be very imperfect.
Yeah.
Maybe they both were selfish. That's another thing for a parent to understand, that it's really selfish to set the child against the ex.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's some people, well, there's a lot of, a lot of my viewers are dealing with narcissism and people who are just, I guess, selfish. I mean, that's the best light to cast them in. I mean, and it's never going to get better, and that's another topic for a whole different show too. I've written down a bunch of topics that we have to talk about.
Well, we have narcissism, we have estrangement.
Yes.
What's next?
Narcissism, estrangement, step parents, and then I saw a question that is a really good question, but I think that that's a whole topic. It's about, Saul says he just received unsupervised visits. He's been replaced in the household with another stepdad for 18 months till his death. And now he's rebuilding the bond. What's the best way? So I think that's like a whole show too.
Rebuilding the bond after an estrangement.
Mm-hmm.
Or after, was this a court appointed? What happened to this dad?
I can't tell from Saul's question, but it sounds like he had supervised visits for a period of time for some reason. And I'm not sure.
Sometimes these supervised visits, parents can get really furious at each other and make incredibly unfair and untrue accusations. So a parent really loses the ability to visit their child. It would be interesting if Saul would write his case in, and we could look it over together, Wendy, and think about the legal and the mental health ramifications.
I would love that. So Saul, if you hear, you are here. Saul's still here. He said the stepdad passed away from a heart attack and he had supervised visits for 18 months. So Saul, can you write in at wendy@commandthecourtroom.com? Just kind of give a synopsis of your case, and Dr. Judy will come on the show and we can do a case study on that.
That would be great. Doing case studies would be really important, because the nuances of every family really dictate the decisions we make. I mean, the age of the children, the number of children. Sometimes we're talking about multiple divorces, right?
Yeah.
Where there are more parents than you can imagine. So I think doing some intensive, in-depth case consultations would be a really interesting feature for us, Wendy.
I love that. So Judy, could you do, like, if there's anybody out there who would be willing to actually be a guest on the show live, like would you be willing to consider doing like a hot seat with somebody?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
The three of us, right?
Awesome.
Exactly. I think that would be great, Wendy.
I would love that. So Tenacious Warrior, who's my right-hand lady and who I adore, and is always there for me and always checks on me, by the way, which I appreciate. She texts me and asks how I'm doing. So Tenacious Warrior just posted my email, wendy@commandthecourtroom.com. And you guys, I may not respond right now. It's been crazy, but if you're interested in doing a case study on your case, or even appearing on a show with Dr. Rabinor to talk about your case and your relationship with your children, then please write in and we'll talk about it. So Felicia Majerski is saying, make me a guest. So please, Felicia, why don't you send in a little blurb about your case and we can see if we can make that happen.
Wendy, this is a great Felicia. Write in, and Wendy, you'll send me what Felicia writes you and we'll have a conversation, and then Felicia will come on.
Okay, and Heather also has a email with Command the Courtroom, heather@commandthecourtroom.com. And Saul says he's definitely interested. He has a wild ride. Felicia says, will do. You're getting lots of great comments, Judy, and I can't find them right now, probably because it's 7 o'clock, which is approaching my bedtime. And I know it's like 10 o'clock there, which is past your bedtime.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring this show, which has been amazing, to an end. Lily Flowers is saying, I'm up for a case study. I love Lily. Hi, Lily. It's good to see you. And then Born Free has another question. Like, we have just endless topics here, Judy. How do y'all deal with short bouts of alienation? So that's, something we can chat about too.
Right. And Born Free, you might want to talk about how would you define short bouts of alienation?
Okay.
You know, we're talking about a parent who's alienated, a kid who refuses to see a parent. There's so many nuances to this.
Oh, the nuances. Got it. Oh my gosh. I'm just like making notes here on some random scrap of paper I have on my desk. I need to type these out. So Tenacious Warrior is saying, we love your content, Dr. Rabinor. Kathleen says, thank you. Oh, thank you to Tenacious Warrior. But, you know, I know everybody appreciates you, Judy, and having you on. Like, you're always such a fun guest. And somebody asked, are your books on audio?
Unfortunately, no.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Right.
Okay.
That's next. Right.
Okay.
So the two books that you might be interested in are Befriending Your Ex After Divorce, Making Life Better for You, Your Kids, and Yes, Your Ex. And that really, the pitch is try to get along with your ex. Your ex could actually be a help to you, even if at the time you're getting divorced, you feel like, I never want to see this person again. I wish they'd get killed in a car accident.
Yeah.
You might not feel that way forever. Trust me. I've dealt with so many divorced people. And the other book is The Girl in the Red Boots, Making Peace with My Mother. Everything I learned about making peace with my mother, I learned from making peace with my ex.
That's interesting. That's a great spin. And, you know, I will say that I've read both of these books and they're phenomenal. And like I said earlier, The Girl with the Red Boots, I read that just shortly before it was released. I think this past May, somewhere around May.
Yeah.
And I was just sobbing at the end because it touched me so much and, you know, made me think a lot about my relationship with my own mother. And then also it made me think about my mother's relationship with her mother and just different observations I've had. There's a lot of healing that can happen by reading, I think, both books. So, and Born Free is saying, I see 3 books on Amazon. Do you have 3 books?
The other one is a book about eating disorders because I've worked for years with people, women and men too, with anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, compulsive eating. And I wrote a book about that. And I love writing books and I love talking to you, Wendy. It's called The Starving Madness,
Yes.
Tales of Hunger, Hope, and Healing in Psychotherapy. And I love coming on this show. Maybe I'll just become a permanent podcast guest.
I would love that, Judy. And you guys, y'all, you know what? Like, Command the Courtroom's in great company because Dr. Judy has been on Oprah and Sally Jesse Raphael. So, you know, like, I feel like I'm up there. I'm up there with Oprah.
We don't know how old the people are watching.
Everybody knows Oprah. Who doesn't know Oprah, right?
Everybody knows Oprah. Right.
All right, Judy. Well, I'm going to let you get to bed. And, you know, thank you for being here. And I can't wait to have you back. We have lots of fertile ground to cover.
Absolutely. Okay. So we'll plan the next one. And I look forward to whenever it is.
All right. That sounds awesome. And for all you out there watching, I love you guys. Thank you for always showing up. Next week is Labor Day, and we're actually taking a little family road trip to the beach in LA. So I won't be on next Monday, but I'll let you know when the next guest is scheduled. And just remember to get out there and command the courtroom. Have a good night.
Good night.